Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today we're going to be talking about the severe weather threat for New South Wales, where some damaging winds, large waves and locally heavy rainfall is possible along the New South Wales coastline. We're also going to be taking a look at a change in the forecast for Western Australia, including some unseasonable heat for the southwest corner for today and tomorrow. We'll give you an update on the Philippine Sea Typhoon. We'll also take a very brief look at another tropical cyclone happening in the southern hemisphere. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather update. So if you haven't already, then please do consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. We're going to zoom into New South Wales at this time right now. Nothing going on right now at this time, but you can see a nice front now starting to brush up against Victoria past Tasmania, and that is where our next round of severe weather is coming. Last night there was some good snowfall on some of the elevated peaks, and that will continue throughout this morning in Tasmania, around Cradle Mountain and so forth. There will be some more snowfall there throughout the course of today, so if you are driving through the area, make sure you are using caution on the roads, because they will be very slippery and slimy, so take care up there. Over into New South Wales, they do have a road weather alert currently in for Canberra. You can actually see some of the fog that got itself nestled in between the mountain valleys, in between some of the mountains in the Blue Mountains and around the Australian Capital Territory. That really was quite a lot. There was some really thick fog there overnight. You can see it here, and it got itself right over the top of Canberra, and as such, road conditions were hazardous this morning. That should be starting to ease off right about now. Up across New South Wales, we're going to be talking about some heavy rainfall throughout the course of this evening and into especially tomorrow, as these forecast models load in. The chances of some storms between Mallacoota up towards Wollongong will start to arise later this evening and into tonight, but those will creep up the coastline, and the rainfall will become heavier through early Saturday morning and into early Saturday afternoon, especially for locations between Sydney and Tiree, including Newcastle. We'll be seeing some heavy showers and heavy rainfall come ashore up there, which could lead to rainfall accumulations approaching 50 millimetres for a 24-hour period sometime on Saturday or even into Sunday morning. Now, of course, with a weather system like this, where we've got a low pressure in the Tasman Sea and a lot of rain being dragged up, the main threat is going to be the wind threat, and as such, that brings the threat of waves too. We'll get onto rainfall in just a second, but I would like to talk about the wind threat first. We're looking at the potential, especially Saturday morning, for damaging winds locally destructive along the New South Wales coastline, 63, 64 kilometres an hour, gusting up towards 85 or so kilometres an hour through here. In fact, maybe stronger in places, and those will continue to strengthen throughout the course of Saturday, probably peaking around Saturday 2 or 3 p.m. along the New South Wales coastline, but yeah, becoming really strong up towards Gosford and Newcastle, and as a result, there will be very damaging surf conditions along a lot of the New South Wales coastline. So if you are in and around the water between Wollongong and Forster, including Newcastle, Sydney, Gosford and all the beaches around Sydney, first off, probably don't be around the water. That is a silly idea in weather conditions like this, but if you are walking along the water or something like that, just exercise a lot of caution, because those waves are going to be big, and by big I mean 4 to 5 metres in height, peaking around Saturday evening and hopefully easing off by Sunday morning, but yeah, up to 5 metres in height, with a pretty short wave period as well of only 9 seconds. Normally when you're talking about waves around 5 metres in height, the wave period is about 13 to 14 seconds. 9 seconds is very quick, and that means coastal erosion is more than likely to happen here. This is going to be quite a destructive weather event, and one that people should be taking very seriously if you do live in an area that is at risk of coastal damage and so forth. But yeah, as this weather system moves through, it's going to drag a cold air pool behind it. Just in a second I will talk about rainfall, and as such, overnight conditions Saturday night and into Sunday morning are going to be freezing or very close to freezing for a lot of the mountain communities around Canberra and New South Wales. And if we were to take a look at temperature right now, below zero nights are expected for a lot of the elevated areas as you get into Sunday morning, and even below zero nights are possible as you get further inland as well, where the temperatures will be just above zero for some locations. Sydney should be spared. They're expecting 10 degrees overnight. Monday night might be a little bit cooler, a little bit challenging to get out of bed there, but it's definitely going to be inland where we're going to be seeing at some very cool nights, that's for sure, from this cool little air pool that's moving through. Now, in terms of rainfall accumulation, not expecting too much rainfall to fall inland, definitely not inland, but along the coastline there will be up to 50 millimeters falling, and from heavy and fast moving showers, the risk of flash flooding and riverine flooding is certainly possible, especially south of Sydney, which has received quite a lot of rainfall so far this year. In fact, they're already approaching 70% of their annual rainfall totals in some areas south of Wollongong, so scary amounts of rainfall accumulations have occurred there. But around Bateman's Bay, if you were to get 25 millimeters come ashore, which is entirely possible within an hour, there is certainly the risk of some flooding up there. Wollongong and Sydney should be remaining dry, but Newcastle could receive up to 50 millimeters or so, 40 to 50 millimeters there. But yeah, especially as you get inland, away from those eastern suburbs into the western suburbs, little to no rainfall can be expected. There may be a sprinkle or two around Penrith and Blaxland and Richmond, but absolutely nothing that will register is entirely likely at this time. So yeah, it definitely does look like a bit of a weather event coming ashore here. In terms of maximum wind gusts, we're talking around 85 to 90 kilometers an hour. I would say that might be a little bit of a low ball at this time. Maximum wind gusts I would expect to probably be at around 100 to 110 kilometers an hour along the coastline. And that's purely just because of model resolution, not being able to hammer out the data that is necessary in a weather event like this. It will be shower based. There's not going to be major fronts coming ashore or big slow moving rain bands coming ashore. It will mainly be small intense pools of showers. So at this time, this is a pretty interesting weather forecast. Later on this week and into early next week, the rainfall will creep up towards the Gold Coast and northeastern New South Wales, but it doesn't look like it's going to become a problem up there. Lord Howe Island could actually be in the thick of things in terms of some pretty strong winds as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if there are ocean wind warnings raised there later next week into Thursday and Friday with the passage of another cold front. No, that's since been dropped from the weather forecast, but it does look like early next week this low pressure system will go for New Zealand, but that's a whole other story for another day. By the looks of things, it's not looking like a likely major situation for New Zealand at this time. Take a look at this front though. This looks pretty gnarly indeed. That's going to be interesting to take a look at satellite imagery, so remind me Monday and Tuesday to take a look at that, because that is going to look very good, that's for sure. Now it's time to take a look at Western Australia. There is a little bit of rainfall on the cards later on in the forecast period. I'm just going to cut straight to the rainfall accumulation for the next 10 days, because at this point I am hoping for any amount of rainfall at all. So even 5 millimeters really does get me excited at this time, but really nothing, maybe a bit of rainfall for the Capes, but nothing significant. GFS calling for some good rainfall. We'll break that down in just a second. The Access G3 not calling for anything at all, just mainly for the Capes. It'd be great to get some rainfall on the Stirling Range National Park, because I will be heading there in under a month now, and I'd love to see that all flowering and so forth, but it doesn't look like that's going to be likely at this time. But I'm just hoping that I'm not going to be hiking in 30-degree heat, which is what we're seeing to date for the southwest of Western Australia. But let's go and take a look at the GFS model before I talk about these very high temperatures that are going to be happening. We're expecting a bit of a front to come through from, what is that, Thursday? Yeah, from Thursday afternoon onwards, there will be a bit of a front approaching the southwest corner of Western Australia. It looks like it could be quite strong by the looks of things, with some heavy rainfall towards the backside of it, making its crossing at Friday evening by the looks of things, dumping up to 20 millimeters of rainfall in the Perth metro area and maybe 30 millimeters of the Capes around Margaret River, Busselton and Bunbury. So this would be good rainfall, that's for sure. And then another front coming through Saturday and some showers Saturday and into Sunday. So all around, this looks like a very, very good forecast for Western Australia in terms of rainfall. I really hope that the GFS forecast plays out, but again, there is no congruency between other major forecast models, so it's really just a fading dream at this time, this significant rainfall that could cross the WA coastline. So yeah, that is a little bit unfortunate, and I can't wait for the day when we're talking about some significant rainfall for Western Australia, because we really, really do need it, an emphasis on really right there. Let's talk about temperatures. We haven't talked about temperatures for Western Australia in quite a while, but it's going to be a hot one today across parts of Western Australia, going up to 30 degrees for some areas of the Perth metro area. Maximum expected around 3 or 4 p.m, so it's going to be a late one, but up in the northern suburbs, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. Perth expected expecting a top of 29 degrees. Not so much reciprocated amongst the eastern weather forecast model here, but these are temperatures about 9 degrees Celsius above the May average. Now, that doesn't seem as much as what temperatures could be, but keep in mind, by late May, which is what we're starting, or mid to late May, we should be getting our first cold fronts coming through. We should be getting some good rainfall. So far this May, we've had 4.8 millimetres of rainfall. The May average is 86.5 millimetres in Perth, so it is ridiculously dry and still ridiculously hot as well, and those extreme to exceptional drought conditions are going to continue for some time by the looks of things throughout the southwest and into the Perth metro. And it's kind of funny how it's only the Perth metro that is copying this extreme to exceptional drought-like conditions. Further inland, you're talking more like moderate to severe drought-like conditions, which is still very nasty, but I do find it rather amusing that it is only Perth at this time. And soil moisture anomalies are at around 60 to 70 millimetres below, or no, only about 20 millimetres below on this map here. But yeah, very, very dry conditions across a lot of southwest and Western Australia, and it is imperative that we get some rainfall very soon. And you can really see just how intense the drought-like conditions are across a lot of Western Australia, but also into New South Wales too, and Victoria. A lot of Victoria experiencing record-breaking drought at this time as well, so we don't want to forget about them, and we need to show them some love as well, hoping that the drought breaks for Victoria and Western Australia as well, and we'll be getting more coverage on those as we get further into winter, because this is our rainy season, and we should definitely be receiving rainy conditions from right about now, basically, so it is kind of concerning that we aren't at this time. Now, that is enough on the Australian weather. We do have two tropical threats around our local area. Well, I do say local, but the second one is certainly pushing it. The first threat is in the Philippine Sea. I'm going to give that a little bit of love later on, but I would like to talk about Tropical Cyclone ILA, over north of Madagascar at this time. This is a Category 1 strength system on the Australian scale, a tropical storm on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale here north of Madagascar, and it's going to be meandering around Madagascar, south of the Seychelles, actually, before heading in towards the Comoros through this weekend, petering off a little bit after Sunday, but it does look like it has a run of intensification this weekend before bad conditions get to it Monday afternoon, and the stalling motion of the storm really does kill it off through Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday, but it looks like it could actually become a strong tropical cyclone very briefly. There's going to be an update on this on the Cyclones Extra channel. I'm going to link that in the video description once I make it, so make sure you do stick around for that. It'll only be a quick update, but if you haven't already, then please do consider subscribing to the Cyclones Extra channel. There'll be a link in the description down below, and there'll be a link in the iCards right now. Now, in terms of threats to any significant population area around Madagascar or into the Comoros, we're taking a look at the rainfall map right now, and although there is some significant rainfall expected across where this tropical cyclone will be tracking, we're not expecting significant rainfall for Madagascar, but a late season deluge is possible around Mananara and some of the communities adjacent to that in northern Madagascar. We'll be seeing up to 200 to 400 millimetres, and also some good rainfall for the southern coast as well, towards the southeast of the capital Antananarivo. There could be up to 200 millimetres or so falling there over the 5 to 10 day forecast period. So all in all, some good rainfall could be possible through that area. In terms over the next 24 hours, though, nothing too crazy is expected across much of Madagascar. But again, if you do live in Madagascar and you're watching, first of all, hello, subscribe to the other channel for the update that's coming out later today. But yeah, make sure you are exercising caution if you are in a flood-prone area. Let's move up in towards the Philippine Sea now. It's only the eastern WF that has kept this typhoon on the forecast. The GFS has dropped it from overnight. The eastern WF still brings it to a respectable intensity by later next week and into next weekend. We're looking at a tropical storm moving up towards the Ryukyu Islands. Certainly plausible by this time of the year. We're talking about late May and getting in towards early June at this point, so certainly a possible track and a plausible track for this typhoon to be taking in the northern Philippine Sea. Still absolutely no land threat from this typhoon by the looks of things at this time. We're going to have to wait and see, but I do find it rather amusing that the GFS has once again completely dropped it from its forecast, and I think that this typhoon might be a bust here. We've been talking about it for about 3 weeks now, but something's just just telling me, gut feeling is telling me that this is going to be a bust. And the fact that it keeps showing up in our forecasts is a little bit confusing because I'm left here to only report what is going on the forecasts, but my gut feeling says that this storm is going to be a bust and at worst becomes a tropical depression or tropical storm, and at best really just never forms. So we're going to have to wait and see on this forecast here, give it a few days at least to see what the forecast models decide what's in store for this system. Normally the GFS is fairly reliable, but it's been really choppy and changey on this system, so its reliability this typhoon season could be questionable, but we will have to wait and see on that. Anyways, another long-winded forecast update, and I do thank you for watching. If you haven't already, then please do consider subscribing because your support greatly is appreciated. That's all that I have time for today. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. There'll be a second update on the Cyclones Extra channel as well, so make sure you are watching out for that and subscribe if you haven't already. That is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.